Hola, my name is Adriana if you don't know me, and I've been inspired to just speak into a camera about what I've been living and how I'm living it. So I'm going to try and do this without feeling super egocentric. Let me just talk about me. But the guidance is clear and the signs are around that speaking and putting voice and words to my experience and sharing it with others is an important part of being alive, a storyteller. So I don't know where to start with this besides that I have known that I would be moving through shedding of old identities for some time now. I began my awakening spiritually in 2017, 2016 actually, it's when it all started. And I didn't know then, but I knew after my awakening that the movements in the sky, astrology, and the cycles of the planets had a lot to do with it, as my awakening literally began full force when Uranus moved into Taurus a few years ago. And I have learned a lot about myself as Uranus, as I have Taurus. There's a jumping spider on my window right now. Weaving. Trying not to cry. Okay. Taurus is in my 12th house. And my awakening was really hard and fast. I remember the first time I really truly felt energy move through my body. I thought I was going to have a seizure. I didn't know what it was. And I have never felt anything so strong before through my body. It was like a rush. My body was shaking, felt dizzy. And I remember asking myself, like, what do I do? Do I go call 911? Like, what do I do? And a little voice in my head started to talk to me. And for many years, I've questioned, like, who was that voice and what was it? Anyway, now that I'm here, I knew that when Uranus moved into my first house, now that it's in Gemini, that I would start moving through a lot of awareness around identity. And I wasn't wrong. And I prepared myself because I knew that this cycle was coming. And I knew that I needed to create support for me to be able to move through this because I wasn't meant to do it alone. And so for the last 2 years, I've consciously created connection with others and immersed myself in communities that have gifted me the support and the witnessing and the love that I've needed to move through thresholds. But now that I'm here in this moment and where I am in my life, I've come to realize and feel and see that this idea of identity is so layered. And I've told myself so many times that when I got to this point, I would just let my old identities die into love. And it was so fucking poetic. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. They're going to die into love. And now that I'm here and these old identities are dying, I don't want to let them go. even though they don't serve me anymore. So I'm feeling the attachments I have to old identities, how they've served me, and how every day, little by little, I let go. I let them die into love, one breath at a time, one action of love towards myself at a time. And these old identities are ones that cannot move with me into this next phase of my life. And I know that in this realm of spiritual wellness, we're like, let go. The new cycle begins today. There's always this very clear, it ends today. If you don't let it go today, you're not going to be able to let it go later. You better make the best of the energies right now in this moment, or else, they're never going to be here again. And I'm like, it is true. They're never going to be here again. And the time is now. You need to strike while the iron is hot, is something I've heard a lot lately too. And there's truth to that. But I feel subtly underneath that this energy of lack, of like, if you don't do this now, it's over forever, for good. It's done. You can never do it again. And that creates this pressure in my body to act out of urgency instead of alignment. So now, as I'm in this place and I can feel the energies moving through my body, and I feel the truth that time isn't infinite in this human form. In this human form, we very much live it in a linear way. And we are learning as multidimensional beings to experience time as fluid and not black and white. And so as I'm in this world of death and moving between one realm and the next, the energetic and the material, the deeply human and the vastly multidimensional, I can see how the only thing that makes sense to me as I traverse this transition is to be so deeply present in this moment of my life as much as I can. Because in these little mundane moments, if you don't know, I have 4 kids. I have a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old. And time can move pretty fast when you're in the world of caretaking and doing daily routine things, But as I lean into letting go of old identities and stepping into new ways of being, I can see my own awareness of my emotions through this process and how they help my children. And through my children, I learn more about myself. And these ideas of identity and these beliefs that we have about who we are all so deeply woven into our psyche. And some of these identities aren't even something we consciously chose. Actually, most of the time it isn't. And if you are one of those people who have a deep connection to the self outside of what society or other people dictate you to be, it's amazing. Thank you for being that. Thank you for transmitting that authenticity. And those that aren't and we're wanting to get there, why I decided to come on camera and talk about this is something I experienced last night. My 2-year-old, I'm gonna cry again. My 2-year-old, today was his first day of Montessori school. And we were getting all of his things ready for his first day. And one of those was a picture of himself. And up until this point, he's known himself as me. That's me. That's me, mama. And yesterday he looked at a picture of himself and he said, Luca. And I was just struck in that moment that he had evolved in some way, that he is growing in an awareness of who he is and what he's called. And his name has always been a big trigger for me because when I became spiritually awakened and aware, I had 2 kids after that, and I had 2 kids before my awakening. The contrast is very sharp and very painful, actually, but I didn't want to name my children, my 2 younger ones. I didn't want to give them a name because I knew that me giving them a name was seeding a projection of identity, of who they're going to be. And I didn't want to do that. With my last baby, my 6-month-old, I waited almost 7 days to name him. I didn't want to. I didn't want to project onto this little human who I thought he was, and the name that would follow him for the rest of his life. And Luca was not a name that I chose. It was chosen by my partner, his father. But it means bringer of light. And that's exactly what he's done. And also, that's the projection, right? And every time I see him and he does something that is incredibly wild, because my 2-year-old Luca is fucking wild and I love him for it. And the reaction that he inspires in people, he truly does bring light wherever he goes. And I see it and I think it and I can feel my projection of who I think he is into his little body. And I don't know whether that's harmful or not. And then I stop and I feel how many times that happened to me, where I was little and totally innocent in my childhood, and my mother's idea of who I needed to be for her seeped into my little body, and what my grandma thought I was going to be, or what my dad saw that I wasn't. My dad wanted a boy. He was very disappointed with me because I was a girl. So I'm imagining, as I let go of these old identities, how much of these identities were actually something that were born out of choice. And none of them were, I don't think. And so now that I'm in this place of me having greater choice of who I want to be and how I want to show up in this world, I'm grieving that for 30 something years of my life, maybe more like 30, okay? I'm 35 this year. I've been living through this identity that I didn't choose. And seeing my little guy being aware of himself like that, like, wow, I can choose now. I can choose with greater sovereignty who I'd like to be. And even in choosing a new identity, my identity that I've been trying to build also comes from wanting to be loved. It's fucking wild. Like a month ago, I started a daily practice with one of my teachers, Ganagni. If you guys don't know her, please go watch her. She's a Spanish speaker, but she does certain classes that she translates into English. Ganagni had a class on, she called it the art of loving, and it was around letting go of attachments when it comes to love. And we did a class together, and we have done a daily practice. And in my daily practice, I have seen attachments be dissolved. And it's not just attachments in love, it's also purifying desires at the same time. And before I started the class, I was super fucking passionate about putting my work out there. I have someone beautifully heart-led and passionate about creating websites and just being an artist with websites, which is amazing to have found someone like that. to translate what I'm trying to offer the world. I was so passionate. And after doing 30 days of this practice, I don't know if that's something I want to do anymore. Because part of my identity that was pushing to create this thing is that I have a soul mission in this life. I have one purpose. I'm here to do this and I have to do it like that. It was very attached to this idea that I needed to give something to the world that was so powerful and transformational that was going to benefit everybody. And I know that that is a seed of love that I have for the world. So I don't want to discount that. But I also see how part of what's pushing that is that there's an inherent belief inside of me that feels that if I don't have a purpose and I don't do something for the benefit of others, I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. God won't love me. People won't love me. I have to be something to be worthy of love. And through this practice, I've connected with such divine love that it's like I actually don't have to do any of that if I don't want to. Because I'm love inherently for who I am. I can sit under a tree and rot for 30 years, giving nothing to society, giving nothing for the benefit of others, and I'm still fucking loved. I'm still worthy of love. And that has been such a challenge for my identity, who feels I need to be something great in this world, to do big things, to be powerful in some way, and to be humbled into this reality of I can just live my quiet, simple life doing a menial muggle 3D job, which I find so offensive. Not doing anything active out here creating programs and meditation classes and whatever it is to affect people deeply and powerfully. Like, I don't need to do that if I don't want to. And so the fire that I once had to creating my business is gone. And now it's like, how do I create from here? I don't know. I don't know. I'm in that place right now of not knowing. I'm in the mystery. I'm in the sweet arms of the Divine Mother right now in her dark void of uncertainty. And she's holding me like this reboso is. And she's saying, like, it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know who you are. It's okay not to know who you're going to be. It's okay. It's okay. My baby just woke up from his nap, so I gotta go. Thanks for listening. I love you, whoever you are watching. Thanks for being you. Thanks for breathing. Maybe I'll see you next time. Who knows? Blessings your way, prayers of love and protection your way. And may you live loudly and beautifully.